Welcome back to another edition of Post Media's Ottawa Senators panel. I'm Ken Warren. With me again, Bruce Garriock and Don Brennan. A lot, as is with every week, to discuss about the Senators. Just coming back this week from what had the makings of being a completely abysmal road trip, defensive nightmare, until they salvage something out of defeating Philadelphia with a late comeback, Bruce?
Well, they were 9 minutes away from it being a complete and total disaster with 4 straight losses and 5 losses in total before they came home. And one of the things they talked about, Ken, before that game in Philadelphia was that they had to improve their road record. Again, did they play great? No, they didn't play great, but they found a way to win in the last 9 minutes of that game. They got some timely goals. They showed again that they've got some youth and they've got some exuberance, and they got a couple of goals from Brady Tkachuk, and Matt Duchene scores a big goal in the end. Does it give them a boost of confidence coming home? Sure, it gives them a boost of confidence coming home, but they've still got a lot of work to do.
Don, I mean, where do you start? I mean, is the defense just is there a way to repair that defense?
Well, I don't think you can use the word or even ask if they played. They were horrible. They were horrible in Philadelphia, like they were horrible in every other stop on the road defensively. Now, they had a spurt, but they were playing the second worst team in the Eastern Conference. I mean, Philadelphia is not a very good team. So to come back against the Philadelphia Flyers, yeah, you didn't lose to them. But defensively, I mean, they're going to be fun to watch, continually fun to watch this season because they can score goals. But they are going to give up a lot of goals, and that is not the recipe for success. And we didn't expect that there would be a success here, a success story to talk about. But we didn't really think that they would score as much as they did.
Right. Well, okay, we'll get to the goal scoring in a minute. I mean, in terms of the defensive, they're the first team in the league to hit 100 in terms of goals against. Not a good stat. What in the short term are the ways to correct this? I mean, do you go out and get another player? Do you just live with the mistakes of youth?
Well, I laugh at the assertion that they need to go out and get a defenseman because they're not going to.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion, they're not going to. They may go out and get another goaltender because, depending on Mike Condon's situation. But I think at this point, they're willing to live with the mistakes. I mean, this was all part of the rebuild, that there was going to be some pain and there was going to be some painful nights. And what we witnessed on this road trip was some very painful nights. One of the things they have to do, and one of the things that is incumbent on them to do, though, is to improve their play defensively from within, because what they're doing on the road is not good at all, and it has to change if they're going to have any kind of consistent success down the way here.
Like, just before Don, it's like they've tried little things, like they put Tom Pyatt to play with Matt Duchene in a line. Like that's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a flood, right?
But that lasted 5 periods.
Well, exactly. Okay, so what other options here in the short term?
Well, the lack of success in the road, look, we knew that was going to be the case. Guy Boucher warned us about that. They can't match, if they can't match lines, if they can't get the players they want on the ice against the top players of the teams, they're going to get beat. And on the road, they can't do that. So, I mean, this road failure thing is no surprise at all. I think now it comes time, you can say, oh, yeah, they need to play better on the road, or better defensively. Well, they haven't played well defensively in a long time. I think now we're reaching the point where if the team continues to grow, if they get better and they add, and they're still having defensive struggles, you've got to look at a coaching change. I think it's getting to the point where Guy Boucher has not come up with an answer or a system that can make them play better defensively, or have his assistant coaches. I think at this point in time, you've really got to consider that.
That's not going to happen this year, is it? In short, I mean, is it? I mean, you do have, we can go down that road. You do have a guy that works with young players in the minors in Belleville. Do you bring up man to coach at some point? Are we getting ahead of ourselves? Because I think we knew this was going to be a long haul. It's the last
year of his contract. Not a decision that needs to be made now, and something they can look at in the offseason. If one of the key words, one of the buzzwords we've heard a lot about is progression. If Guy Boucher can find progression in those young players defensively, then that decision will be made down the road.
Okay, so talking about young players and progression, did anybody expect Brady Tkachuk to be even close to what he's done? He's ahead of a point-a-game pace, scores 2 pivotal goals in the third period. Their last road win, it was because of Brady Tkachuk in Tampa Bay lighting a fire under them in the third period. Is this guy, I guess, where do we start with him? I mean, should he be in Calder Trophy consideration? I mean, and what can we expect from this guy for the rest of the year?
Of course he is. He has to be in the consideration for the Calder. I mean, over a point a game. We don't know what's going to happen the rest of the way. I mean, he plays a physical style. There's a possibility they could go through an injury issue again. But the way he plays the game and the way he produces right now, yeah, to me, he's right up there in the Calder conversation.
You know, when I talked to Danny Marr before the NHL draft, the director of scouting for the Central Scouting Bureau, one of the things he said is that if you talk to Keith Tkachuk and you talk to Matthew Tkachuk, they'll both tell you that Brady Tkachuk is a better player, which I thought was interesting. I think, look, I didn't know him at all, and I wouldn't pretend to have known him, but one of the things I really like about him is his grit, his ability to go in the net, and I think he's more skilled than maybe people thought he was when the Senators drafted him, because there was an awful lot of discussion about them taking Zadina too.
Oh, absolutely. And I think what maybe the one thing that people looked at, and they looked at the stats from Tkachuk going into the year, they go, oh, yeah, he's going to be a physical, he's going to be able to play, compete, but can he score? He scored 8 goals in college last year, and after the Philly game, he has 9 in 14 games, 15 games, whatever it is. I mean, and ahead of a point-a-game pace. So certainly Tkachuk and to a lesser extent, I guess, Colin White have done, you know, what they've been advertised to do, and that's a bright light amid all of this stuff we talk about. They're losing more than they're winning. They are a defensive nightmare, like we said. But just the Tkachuk factor, Don. I mean, or the kids themselves. Is this enough to keep hope for this team?
Absolutely. And the way Tkachuk plays the game, you can see him being the captain of this team down the road. You know, you mentioned Colin White, who's also having a good season and really turned the corner looking like a pro. But I go back, and we've discussed this before, but I go back to Thomas Chabot, too. I mean, Thomas Chabot gets everything going, and another guy down the road that could be a potential captain candidate. I still like the Tkachuk, the hard-working part of his game. But, if you want to look at the future and see a reason for optimism, it's there. I mean, Hey, is the goaltending going to be a problem 4 years, 5 years from now? That is the big question mark.
You know, maybe the Chabot, you mentioned Chabot, maybe that's a good launching spot to talk about Erik Karlsson coming back on Saturday, because really he's stepped out of the shadows, and you know, Karlsson's had a so-so start with the Sharks, 15 points in 25 games, 2 goals. And I think we all knew Chabot was going to be a very good player eventually. I don't think anybody expected him to be leading the NHL. A quarter of the way, he's leading the NHL defenseman in scoring.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody saw these numbers coming. You knew that his role was going to increase when they made the change and they made the trade when they dealt Erik Karlsson to San Jose. But I don't think anybody saw these numbers coming. He's really, you know, he's really come out of his, I don't want to say shell, but he's really shown that he can play the game offensively.
He can throw his body around too. You saw the hit that he threw. No, I'm just.
He kind of said that was accidental.
Hey, before we finish up, guys, and this is you know, it's not the team on the ice. There's off-ice issue, obviously, with the LeBreton Flats, and you know, to me, it's not going to find details of what exactly is going on with the lawsuits and what's next, but for fans in general, you know, I think you look at it and you go, here's some hope of something bright in the future. They're going to have a new arena downtown. It's going to refresh the franchise. The way I look at it is just like another false hope or a step back for fans in general, hoping for something new. Any thoughts on that, Don?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, I've had my doubts whether it was going to get done under the current ownership, and I still do. And without getting too much into that, I can't see a rink downtown. I can see a development going on, but I cannot see a rink at LeBreton Flats under Eugene Melnyk.
The way I look at it is, what they probably have to do right now is just focus on staying in Canada for at least for the next 5 years, and then figure it out from there. I think what's happened here is LeBreton has served to be a distraction now. And they have to kind of, the way I look at it, they have to kind of separate themselves from the distraction, because we don't know what's going to happen in 2 months. There's been some discussion from league officials that perhaps they would try and find Eugene Melnyk a new partner to go into LeBreton Flats. But I kind of feel like this whole process has been set back, and it's clearly become a political football where the Canadian government is now involved. and we'll see where this goes. But if you look at the Senators' approach, I think their approach now is about trying to get people to go back to Canada and realize that that's where they're going to be, at least for the foreseeable future. And then we'll see down the road if there really is a downtown arena.
Well, I guess we can call that the off-ice rebuilding effort that's continuing on. And as we've talked earlier in the show about the on-ice rebuilding effort, still a lot of work to be done, but there are bright spots as we've talked about. Thanks again for tuning in to Post Media's Ottawa Senators panel.